The prison ship Judgment's Edge moved slowly through the dark space between stars. Its metal walls hummed with alien technology, and strange lights blinked along corridors that smelled of ozone and fear. Commander Vexton walked through these halls with measured steps, his tall, thin body casting long shadows under the blue-white lights. He stopped at the detention level and looked through the force field barriers at his prisoners. 12 humans sat quietly in their cells, all small by galactic standards. The Zephyrian commander studied them with his large, multifaceted eyes. These creatures had destroyed a military research station. They had killed trained soldiers and escaped through security systems that should have been impossible to breach. Yet they looked so young. Vexton pulled up the files on his handheld device. The humans called them children. The oldest was maybe 14 standard years, the youngest only 6. But age meant nothing when dealing with a species as unpredictable as humans. The evidence was clear. These small beings had turned cooking supplies and classroom materials into explosive devices. They had disabled weapon systems with toys and broken through reinforced doors using techniques that baffled Zephyrian engineers. In the first cell, a girl with brown hair sat cross-legged on the floor. She held a small piece of metal in her hands, turning it over and over, while her eyes traced the walls around her. Sarah, the file said, 8 years old. She had been found in the station's command center, calmly downloading security protocols while alarms screamed around her. The next cell held a boy named Marcus, 10 years old, dark-skinned, quiet voice. He stood near the energy barrier, counting under his breath. Vexton listened through the translation device. The boy was timing something. Guard rotations, maybe, or power cycles. The commander made a note to randomize the patrol schedules. Further down the corridor, other children sat or stood in their cells. Some drew pictures on the walls with their fingers. Others whispered to each other in the human language that the translator struggled to follow completely. They seemed calm. Too calm for prisoners who faced serious charges. Captain Thexmore appeared beside Vexton, his ceremonial robes rustling softly. The captain was older, his chitin darker with age and authority. He carried himself with the confidence of someone who had seen many species surrender to Zephyrian justice. "Any problems with the prisoners?" Thexmore asked. "No, sir. They remain quiet, almost studying." "Studying what?" Vexton gestured at the girl Sarah. She had stopped turning the metal piece and was now scratching marks on the floor. To most observers, it would look like random lines, but the commander saw patterns, measurements, a map of some kind. "They watch everything," Vexton said. "They count steps, time intervals, guard changes. The small one there has been tracking our course through hyperspace using the vibration patterns in the walls." Thexmore looked where his commander pointed. A tiny human, barely more than a hatchling by Zephyrian standards, sat with one ear pressed to the metal wall. 6 years old, the file said. Too young to understand space navigation, yet her lips moved as she calculated something in her head. "Perhaps it helps them cope with captivity," the captain said. "Lesser species often develop strange behaviors under stress." A communication alert chirped from Thexmore's device. He read the message and his mandibles clicked in annoyance. "The Human Diplomatic Corps demands their release," he said. "They claim these are innocent younglings taken illegally." Innocent? Vexton pulled up security footage on his portable screen. "Watch this." The video showed the research station 3 days ago. Everything had been normal until the human school group arrived for what their teachers called an educational visit. The children had toured the facilities, asked questions, and seemed genuinely interested in Zephyrian science. Then the explosion started. The footage switched to internal cameras. The children moved through the station like trained soldiers. They used classroom scissors to cut through wire conduits. They mixed cleaning chemicals to create smoke bombs. The oldest ones disabled security systems while the youngest created distractions by pretending to cry for help. In one clip, Sarah crawled through an air vent that should have been too small for any thinking being. She emerged in the main computer core and began downloading files with equipment she had built from electronic toys and spare parts. Another section showed Marcus leading 3 other children through a series of locked doors. Instead of breaking them down, they had somehow convinced the automated systems to open for them. Later investigation revealed they had observed maintenance routines and mimicked the proper access codes. "They planned this," Thexmore said as he watched the footage. The educational visit was a cover for military reconnaissance. Yet they left no casualties, Vexton pointed out. They could have killed our people easily, but they used non-lethal methods. They disabled rather than destroyed. Mercy or incompetence? The commander considered this. He looked again at the children in their cells. The boy Marcus had moved to a different position and was now examining the energy barrier with scientific curiosity. He reached out one finger to almost touch the glowing field, then pulled back. Learning. Testing. I think, Vexthon said slowly. They were not trying to cause damage. They were trying to prove something. Before the captain could respond, another alert sounded. This one came from the bridge marked as priority urgent. Captain to the bridge immediately, the voice announced. We have incoming human vessels. Thexmore and Vexthon exchanged glances. Human space was 3 days away at maximum speed. No rescue mission could have reached them this quickly. They left the detention level and took the lift to the bridge. The main viewing screen showed star charts and sensor readings. A young officer approached with trembling hands. Sir, we detect 17 human ships approaching at high speed. They will reach us in 6 hours. Impossible, the captain said. Check your instruments. I have checked them 3 times, sir. The humans are coming. Thexmore stared at the screen. 17 ships meant a serious rescue attempt. It meant the humans valued these children enough to risk war with the Zephyrian collective. The thought made him uncomfortable. He opened a communication channel to Earth's diplomatic frequency. This is Captain Thexmore of the collective ship Judgment's Edge. We have lawfully detained Humana, terrorists who attacked our research facility. Any attempt to interfere will be considered an act of war. The response came immediately. A human woman appeared on the screen. Her face calm, but her eyes holding something that made Thexmore's survival instincts whisper warnings. This is Ambassador Elena Vasquez of the Human Diplomatic Corps. You have 48 hours to release our children unharmed, or face consequences you cannot comprehend. The transmission ended. Thexmore turned to his crew. Maintain course. Prepare weapon systems. If the humans want war over a few terrorist younglings, they shall have it. But as he gave the orders, he found his gaze drifting back to the detention level indicators on his command screen. 12 small lights showed 12 occupied cells. 12 human children who had accomplished what trained soldiers might have failed to do. For the first time since taking these prisoners, Captain Thexmore wondered if he truly understood what he had captured. And deep in his chest, something that might have been fear began to grow. The ship continued through space, carrying its precious and dangerous cargo toward a confrontation that would change how the galaxy viewed humanity forever. In their cells below, the children continued to watch, count, and learn. They were no longer visitors on an alien ship. They were coming home. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in the Great Hall of Nexus Station. Representatives from 17 different species filled the curved chamber, their various forms creating a rainbow of colors, shapes, and sizes. Some floated in environmental suits filled with methane. Others required temperature controls or special lighting. All had come to witness what they expected would be routine hostage negotiations. Ambassador Elena Vasquez walked into the chamber alone. Her simple black diplomatic uniform stood out against the elaborate robes and ceremonial gear worn by the other representatives. She moved with the confident stride of someone who had faced down hostile aliens before. But today something was different. The other ambassadors noticed it immediately. A tension in her shoulders, a hardness in her eyes that made even the most predatory species feel uneasy. High Archon Zeftul rose from his elevated platform. The ancient Zephyrian leader stood nearly 3 meters tall, his ceremonial armor gleaming under the chamber's lights. He had presided over countless diplomatic crises, always finding peaceful solutions through logic and negotiation. Today would be no different. Ambassador Vasquez, he began, his voice carrying the authority of 1,000 years of galactic law. We understand your concern for the detained humans. However, they are accused of serious crimes against collective property and personnel. Elena stopped in the center of the chamber. She looked up at the Archon, then slowly turned to address the entire assembly. When she spoke, her voice was quiet but somehow filled the enormous space. Honored representatives, I stand before you as both a diplomat and a mother. The Zephyrian Collective has imprisoned 12 human children. They range in age from 6 to 14 of our years. These children were on an educational field trip when your people accused them of terrorism. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Several representatives checked their translation devices, certain they had misheard. Children? The Zephyrians had detained children? Archon Zephtel's mandibles clicked impatiently. Ambassador, age is irrelevant when discussing criminals. These humans destroyed a military research facility using sophisticated tactics and improvised weapons. The evidence clearly shows what? Elena interrupted, her voice rising slightly. Shows that human children, when threatened and afraid, use their minds to escape danger? Shows that they survived a situation that would have killed adults of most species? She activated a holographic projector from her diplomatic case. Images filled the chamber. School photographs of 12 smiling children. Sarah building a model spacecraft. Marcus winning a mathematics competition. The youngest girl, Emma, hugging a stuffed animal nearly as big as herself. These are not soldiers, Elena continued. They are students. Sarah wants to be a spacecraft engineer. Marcus dreams of exploring distant galaxies. Emma still sleeps with a teddy bear that her grandmother made for her. The procurator of the hegemony, a massive insectoid being, leaned forward. If they are merely younglings, how did they accomplish what your own military admits was impossible? Elena smiled, but there was no warmth in the expression. That, honored procurator, is what you fail to understand about humans. Our children are not helpless creatures waiting to become adults. They are humans in training. She changed the holographic display. Now it showed human children from various colonies and worlds. Kids building robots from spare parts. Teenagers programming computers. Young people solving complex puzzles and working together on projects that impressed adult scientists. We do not simply protect our children, Elena explained. We prepare them. Every game they play teaches strategy. Every problem they solve builds capability. Every challenge they face makes them stronger. Not because we want child soldiers, but because we love them too much to leave them helpless in a dangerous universe. Archon Zephtel accessed his personal files and displayed new footage. Your students systematically penetrated our most secure facility. They disabled weapons that trained soldiers could not bypass. They accessed classified information using techniques that our experts cannot replicate. Yes, Elena agreed calmly. They did. And you see nothing wrong with this? Elena's expression hardened. I see everything wrong with adults who threaten children, and then act surprised when those children fight back. What I see wrong is a species so arrogant that they assume young humans must be criminals, because they refuse to be victims. She stepped closer to the Archon's platform. You want to know what those children did? They recognized danger. They adapted to survive. They protected each other. They found a way home. They did exactly what human children are supposed to do when adults fail to keep them safe. The chamber fell silent. Elena's words carried an undertone that the universal translators struggled to convey fully. Something primal and dangerous that made instinctive alarm systems activate in alien minds. The ambassador from the Crystalline Concord spoke next, their voice chiming like distant bells. Surely this is a misunderstanding that can be resolved through proper channels. Perhaps compensation? No. Elena's voice cut through the suggestion like a blade. There is no compensation for what they have done. They have taken our children. They have imprisoned our future. They have shown the galaxy that they consider human younglings to be threats instead of treasures. She turned to address the entire assembly. I came here to give you all one warning. You have 48 hours to return our children, unharmed and untraumatized, to their families. If you fail to do this, you will learn why humanity conquered a world full of creatures that could kill us with their claws and teeth. Archon Zephtel's voice rose with indignation. You dare threaten the collective. We are a peaceful species that follows galactic law, and we are a species that protects its young, Elena replied. Your people made a choice when they decided our children were criminals instead of victims. Now you will live with the consequences of that choice. She activated her communication device. Computer, send priority alpha message to all human worlds, colonies, and vessels. Message reads, they have our children. All other considerations are secondary. The device chimed as the message transmitted. Helena looked around the chamber one final time. Honored representatives, most of your species never had to evolve as we did. You never faced predators that hunted your young. You never learned that sometimes the most dangerous creature in the universe is a parent who cannot reach their child. She began walking toward the exit, then paused and turned back. The children you have imprisoned are not just any humans. They are part of our gifted program, the brightest, most capable young minds our species has produced. Their parents include scientists, engineers, military officers, and explorers. These people have spent their lives pushing the boundaries of what is possible. Elena's smile returned cold and sharp. You have taken their children. You have 48 hours to contemplate what that means. As she left the chamber, emergency communications began flooding into the Galactic Council's systems. Human ships were mobilizing across dozens of star systems. Civilian vessels were being converted for long-range travel. Colony militias were activating. The entire human sphere was responding to a simple message. They have our children. Archon Zeftul watched the tactical displays with growing concern. This was not the response of a military preparing for war. This was something far more dangerous. The response of a species preparing to protect its future. In the detention cells of the Judgment's Edge, 12 human children continued their careful observations. They had heard the ship's emergency communications. They knew help was coming, and they knew with the absolute certainty that only children possess, that their parents would move heaven and earth to bring them home. The galaxy was about to learn a very important lesson about humanity. Never threaten their children. The message spread through human space like fire through dry grass. From Earth to the furthest colony worlds, from research stations to mining platforms, the simple words triggered something that alien observers had never seen before. They have our children. Dr. James Chen stood in his office at the Gifted Program headquarters on Luna, staring at the list of names on his screen. 12 children. 12 brilliant, wonderful, irreplaceable young humans who trusted him to keep them safe. His hands shook as he read each name, remembering their faces, their dreams, their potential. Sarah Martinez wanted to design starships that could reach other galaxies. Marcus Johnson dreamed of discovering new forms of life among distant stars. Emma Nakamura asked questions about physics that made university professors think for hours. These were not just students in his program. These were children he had watched grow up. Children who called him Uncle James and showed him their drawings and asked him to explain why stars were different colors. Children whose parents trusted him with their most precious possessions. His communication system chimed with incoming calls. Hundreds of them. Parents, teachers, former students, and people he had never met but who had heard about the Gifted Program. All asking the same questions. What happened? Where are they? How do we get them back? Dr. Chen activated the emergency network that connected every human world. His face appeared on screens in homes, schools, offices, and ships across known space. My friends, he began, his voice steady despite the storm in his heart. Some of you know me. I am Dr. James Chen, director of the Gifted Program. Today, 12 of our children were taken from us by aliens who do not understand what they have done. He paused, gathering his strength. These children are not ordinary students. They are the future of our species. They are the ones who will solve problems we cannot imagine and explore places we have never dreamed of visiting. They are children who see the universe not as it is, but as it could be. On colony worlds throughout human space, people stopped what they were doing to listen. In the asteroid mining stations, workers turned away from their equipment. On exploration ships months away from the nearest planet, crews gathered around communication screens. The aliens called them terrorists. Dr. Chen continued. They see our children's capabilities and assume malice. They do not understand that human children are not small adults. They are humans learning to be magnificent. Admiral Sarah Rodriguez received the alert while her fleet conducted training exercises near Proxima Centauri. She had served in the Human Defense Forces for 30 years, fighting pirates and hostile aliens, but she had never seen anything like the response to this message. Within 2 hours, her communication officer reported 17 civilian ships requesting permission to join the fleet. Not military vessels, families. Parents who had converted cargo haulers, mining ships, and passenger transports into vessels capable of interstellar travel. Admiral, her communications officer said, his voice filled with wonder. We are receiving similar reports from every human system. Civilian ships are mobilizing everywhere. They are not asking for orders or waiting for permission. They are just coming. Rodriguez studied the tactical displays. The ships converging on the coordinates where the alien prison vessel waited were not built for war. They were built for life, for carrying families to new worlds, for mining resources to build better homes, for exploring the unknown. But their crews shared something that made them more dangerous than any military force. They were parents coming for their children. Captain Maria Santos of the cargo ship New Hope had been hauling supplies to the outer colonies when the message reached her. Her own daughter was grown now. serving as an engineer on a research station, but the words hit her like a physical blow. Someone had taken human children. Someone had threatened the future. She changed course immediately, burning fuel she could not afford to replace, pushing her ship's engines beyond safe limits. Her crew did not question the decision. Half of them were parents themselves. The other half understood that some things mattered more than cargo schedules and profit margins. As New Hope raced through hyperspace, Captain Santos received messages from other ships. Dozens of them, then hundreds, all heading for the same destination, all carrying the same burning purpose. Aboard the alien prison ship Judgment's Edge, the children felt the change before their captors understood what was happening. Emma, the youngest, pressed her ear to the wall and listened to the vibrations that traveled through the ship's structure. "Something's different," she whispered to Sarah in the next cell. "The ship is changing course again, and there are new signals coming through the communication systems." Sarah had been working on her map of the ship, using the piece of metal to scratch measurements into the floor. She looked up from her calculations. "What kind of signals?" "Human ones," Emma said with certainty. "Lots of them. Getting closer." The children had been implementing what Dr. Chen taught them in their advanced survival classes. He called it Protocol 7, what to do when adults failed to protect them and they had to protect themselves. It was not about fighting, it was about thinking. Marcus had identified 17 different ways the ship's systems could be disrupted using materials available in their cells. The older children had taught the younger ones how to recognize alien technology patterns. They had counted guard rotations, mapped patrol routes, and identified the ship's most vulnerable systems. But most importantly, they had maintained hope. Dr. Chen had taught them that human children were never truly helpless as long as they could think and work together. He had shown them that their minds were their greatest weapons and their curiosity was their strongest shield. Protocol 7, Stage 3, Sarah whispered to the others through the small gaps in their cell walls. "Prepare for family reunion." The alien guards noticed the children whispering but paid little attention. Young beings of most species made noise when afraid. The guards did not understand that these children were not afraid. They were planning. In the ship's command center, Captain Thexmore studied the sensor readings with growing alarm. The approaching human fleet now numbered in the hundreds. Ships were arriving from every direction, all converging on his position. Most were not military vessels, which somehow made them more terrifying. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we are receiving thousands of messages from the human ships. Most are just parents asking for their children back. But some—" The officer paused, his translator struggling with the emotional complexity. "Some are promises, sir. Promises of what will happen if we do not comply." Commander Vexthon appeared on the bridge, his usual calm disturbed. "Captain, we need to consider our options. The humans are not responding like any species we have encountered before." "How do you mean?" "Military threats, we understand. Economic pressure, political maneuvering, territorial disputes. These follow logical patterns. But this—" Vexthon gestured at the tactical display showing the approaching ships. "This is not politics or strategy. This is something deeper." Thexmore activated the ship's long-range sensors and studied the composition of the human fleet. Cargo haulers armed with improvised weapons. Passenger ships converted into assault vessels. Mining equipment repurposed for boarding actions. It was not a military response, it was a migration, an entire species moving to reclaim its young. As the human ships drew closer, the children aboard Judgment's Edge began the final stage of Protocol 7. Using techniques they had learned in chemistry class, they started creating controlled system failures throughout the ship. Not enough to cause harm, but enough to create opportunities. The aliens had made one critical error. They had assumed that taking human children would be like taking the young of any other species, a tragic but manageable political crisis. They had not understood that human children were not just the future of their species. They were the reason their species fought so hard to survive. The first human ships dropped out of hyperspace like angry hornets swarming from a disturbed nest. Captain Chen Wei of the mining vessel, Prospector's daughter, had pushed his engines far beyond their safe limits to arrive first. His ship was not built for combat, but it carried industrial cutting lasers that could slice through starship hulls and asteroid-breaking charges that could crack open mountains. More importantly, it carried a father whose child was somewhere inside that alien prison ship. Chen Wei's 8-year-old daughter Lily was part of the gifted program. She loved mathematics and building tiny robots from electronic scraps. She asked questions that made professors think and gave hugs that made the worst days better. She was the reason Chen Wei worked dangerous jobs in the asteroid belt, saving money to give her a better future. Now aliens had taken her and called her a terrorist. Alien vessel. Chen Wei broadcast on all frequencies, his voice carrying the kind of calm that came before storms. I am Captain Chen Wei of the Prospector's Daughter. My daughter is on your ship. You have 1 minute to release all the children before I come get them myself. The response came immediately from the Zephyrian ship. Human vessel, you are interfering with a lawful detention. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. Chen Wei looked at his sensor display. More human ships were arriving every second. The Maria's Dream, carrying Emma's parents. The Star Chaser with Marcus's family aboard. The New Frontier, loaded with Sarah's extended family and half her colony's population. Consequences? Chen Wei repeated into his microphone. You want to talk about consequences? You took our children. Let me show you what that means. He activated his ship's work lights, the brilliant flood lamps designed to illuminate asteroid mining sites. The Prospector's Daughter blazed like a star against the black of space. One by one, the other human ships did the same. Hundreds of vessels, each carrying families, friends, and neighbors of the imprisoned children, turned their lights toward the alien ship. The effect was beautiful and terrifying. The human fleet formed a sphere of light around the Judgment's edge, each ship burning as bright as its engines could manage. It was not a military formation. It was a statement. Admiral Rodriguez arrived with her official fleet minutes later, but she quickly realized she was not leading this rescue mission. She was trying to prevent a massacre. All human vessels, this is Admiral Rodriguez of the Human Defense Forces. Please maintain safe distances and allow diplomatic channels to resolve this situation. The response came from Captain Santos of the New Hope. Admiral, with respect, diplomacy failed the moment they put our children in cages. We are here to bring them home. Rodriguez understood the feeling. She had children of her own, now grown and serving in the fleet. But she also understood that what was happening around the alien ship was unprecedented in galactic history. An entire species had mobilized not for conquest or territory, but for 12 children. Aboard the Judgment's Edge, Captain Thexmore stared at his tactical displays in growing horror. The human ships kept coming. Not hundreds now, thousands. Each ship broadcasting the same message. Return our children. Sir, his communications officer reported, we are receiving personal messages from the human fleet. They are sending pictures of the children, sir. School photos, family portraits, videos of them playing and learning. The humans want us to see them as individuals, not prisoners. Thexmore felt something crack inside his chest. He had been a soldier for most of his life, following orders and enforcing collective law. He had never thought of prisoners as anything more than security problems to be managed. But these pictures, a small girl with bright eyes holding a model spaceship she had built herself, a boy grinning as he showed off a mathematics award, children laughing, learning, dreaming of futures that seemed suddenly fragile and precious. They are not sending threats, the communications officer continued. They are sending love letters. The humans want us to understand what we have taken from them. In the detention level, the children put their plan into action. Sarah had mapped every weakness in the ship's systems during their imprisonment. Marcus had calculated the precise timing needed to create a cascade failure. Emma, despite being the youngest, had discovered that alien computer systems responded to certain musical frequencies. They began to sing. It was a lullaby their parents had taught them, a simple human song about stars and dreams and finding your way home. The melody carried through the ship's communication systems, echoing in corridors and reaching the bridge. Where alien officers stopped their work to listen, the sound of human children singing in captivity broke something fundamental in every thinking being who heard it. But the song served another purpose. Hidden in its harmonies were the precise frequencies needed to disrupt the ship's power grid. As the children sang, lights began to flicker throughout the Judgment's Edge. Systems failed in cascading waves. Security fields fluctuated. The children had turned their parents' lullaby into a key that would unlock their prison. Commander Vexthon rushed to the detention level as emergency lights bathed the corridors in red. He found the children still singing, their voices creating harmony patterns that seemed to resonate in the ship's metal bones. How? He whispered, staring at the failing containment fields. Sarah looked up at him from her cell, still humming the melody. "You forgot something important," she said in perfect Zephyrian, her young voice carrying knowledge that should have been impossible. "What did we forget?" "We are not just human children," Sarah replied. "We are Dr. Chen's children. He taught us that knowledge is the most powerful tool in the universe, and you gave us 3 days to study your ship." The containment fields died completely. The children stepped out of their cells, no longer prisoners but young humans who had solved the puzzle their captors presented. They moved with purpose through the corridors, following Sarah's mapped routes toward the ship's communication center. On the bridge, Captain Thexmore watched his ship systematically fail around him. Weapons offline. Shields down. Communications sporadic. His prisoners had not broken out. They had simply outthought his technology. "Sir," his sensor operator called out, "the human fleet is moving closer. They are taking position for boarding actions." Thexmore looked at the tactical display. The human ships had arranged themselves in perfect formation around his vessel. Not the formation of a military force, but something more primal. They had formed a protective circle, the way pack animals surrounded their young when threatened. The captain finally understood what Ambassador Vasquez had tried to tell the Galactic Council. This was not about politics or law or territory. This was about family, and he had learned too late that there was nothing in the universe more dangerous than threatening a human's child. "Open all channels," he ordered. "Broadcast to the human fleet." "Sir?" "Tell them." Thexmore paused, watching his prisoners take control of his own ship with tools improvised from their toys and techniques learned in their classrooms. "Tell them we surrender." The words echoed through space, reaching thousands of human ships and millions of human hearts. But the response was not celebration. It was something deeper. The sound of parents who had faced their worst nightmare and discovered they were strong enough to bring their children home. The storm was breaking, but the galaxy would never be the same. The boarding shuttles from the human fleet moved toward the alien ship like seeds carried on a gentle wind. There was no violence, no weapons fire, no dramatic explosions. The Judgment's Edge hung helpless in space, its systems disabled by 12 children who had turned education into liberation. Captain Chen Wei was the first to dock with the alien vessel. His hands shook as he activated the airlock, not from fear but from the overwhelming need to hold his daughter again. Behind him came other parents, their faces showing the same desperate hope and barely controlled emotion. The airlock opened to reveal a sight that would be remembered throughout galactic history. 12 human children stood in the corridor, no longer imprisoned but free. They had unlocked their own cages using techniques learned in school. They had disabled a military vessel using toys and creativity. They had proven something that the galaxy was only beginning to understand. Human children were not weak beings waiting to become strong. They were humans learning to be magnificent, Daddy. Lily Chen ran toward her father, her small arms wrapping around his waist as he dropped to his knees to catch her. The reunion was echoed throughout the ship as other parents found their children, holding them close and whispering words of love and relief. Emma Nakamura's parents arrived to find their 6-year-old daughter calmly explaining to an alien guard how she had calculated the harmonic frequencies that disrupted the ship's power systems. Sarah Martinez was showing her mother the detailed maps she had drawn of the alien vessel's weak points. Marcus Johnson was teaching his father the Zephyrian words he had learned during captivity. The children were not traumatized victims. They were young scientists proudly displaying their latest discoveries. Ambassador Elena Vasquez arrived with Admiral Rodriguez and a small diplomatic team. They found Captain Thexmore waiting in his own bridge, surrounded by human children who had taken control of his ship's systems and were now giving guided tours to their fascinated parents. "Captain," Elena said, her voice carrying none of the cold fury from their previous encounter, "you wish to discuss terms of surrender?" Thexmore looked around his bridge, where human families celebrated their reunion while their children explained alien technology with enthusiasm. The scene was surreal. Conquerors who hugged their prisoners and victors who asked polite questions about spacecraft engineering. "I do not understand your species," the alien captain admitted. "These children destroyed our research facility, disabled our ship, and escaped from maximum security detention. Yet they show no hatred toward us. They speak of their captivity as if it were an interesting educational experience." Elena smiled, the expression warm now instead of threatening. "That is because you still do not understand what you captured. You saw 12 human children and assumed they were just small adults. You judged them by their capabilities and concluded they must be criminals. She gestured toward Sarah, who was showing Commander Vexthan how she had calculated the ship's course changes using wall vibrations. You never asked the most important question: why are human children so capable? Dr. James Chen arrived on the next shuttle, his heart pounding as he saw his students safe and unharmed. Emma ran to him immediately, chattering excitedly about the alien computer systems she had analyzed. The other children gathered around their teacher, eager to share what they had learned during their adventure. Uncle James, Marcus said, his young face bright with discovery. Did you know that Zephyrian technology uses quantum resonance patterns? And their artificial gravity works completely differently from ours. It was amazing. Dr. Chen looked at Captain Thexmore, seeing confusion and something that might have been awe in the alien's multifaceted eyes. Captain, may I explain something about human children? Thexmore nodded silently. These children are not unusual by human standards, Dr. Chen began. They are exceptional, yes, but not unique. Every human child is born with the capacity for wonder, for learning, for problem-solving. We do not create that capacity. We simply refuse to limit it. He gestured toward his students, who were now scattered around the bridge exploring alien technology with the fearless curiosity that only children possessed. When Sarah builds a model spacecraft, she learns engineering. When Marcus solves mathematics problems, he develops logical thinking. When Emma asks questions about how things work, she becomes a scientist. We do not teach them these skills to make them dangerous. We teach them because we love them too much to leave them helpless. Elena stepped forward, addressing not just the alien captain, but the recording devices that would carry this moment to every corner of the galaxy. You called them terrorists because they escaped from your facility. We call them children because they adapted to survive. You saw their capabilities as evidence of criminality. We see their capabilities as evidence of good parenting. She paused, letting the words sink in. Every game they play teaches strategy. Every problem they solve builds confidence. Every challenge they overcome makes them stronger. Not because we want child soldiers, but because we want children who can face whatever the universe might bring. Captain Thexmore watched Sarah explain her escape plan to Admiral Rodriguez, using technical terms that impressed military officers. He saw Marcus teaching alien crew members basic human mathematics with the patience of a natural teacher. He observed Emma drawing pictures of the ship's systems from memory with accuracy that would challenge trained engineers. They are not angry with us, he said wonderingly. We imprisoned them, called them criminals, threatened their future. Yet they show no hatred. Because, Dr. Chen said gently, they understand something that you are still learning. You were afraid. You saw capabilities that you did not understand and assumed the worst. But children forgive fear, especially when it comes from misunderstanding. The formal negotiations took place in the ship's conference room, with representatives from both species working out the details of release and repatriation. But the real diplomacy happened throughout the ship, where human families interacted with alien crew members and children served as translators between species that were learning to see each other differently. When the agreements were signed, Captain Thexmore made a personal request. He wanted to address the human fleet, to speak directly to the parents who had crossed space to reclaim their children. People of Earth and all human worlds, he broadcast, his image transmitted to thousands of ships. I am Captain Thexmore of the Zephyrian Collective. 3 days ago I believed I had captured dangerous terrorists. Today I understand that I had imprisoned your most precious treasures. He paused, struggling with concepts that his species had never needed to consider. Your children have shown us that strength and innocence are not opposites. They have demonstrated that knowledge and kindness can exist in the same heart. They have taught us that the most dangerous thing in the universe is not a weapon or a threat, but the love between a parent and child. The response from the human fleet was not triumphant cheering, but something quieter and more profound, and there were the sound of thousands of parents who understood that their children had just made the galaxy a little bit safer for all. Children, Admiral Rodriguez coordinated the transfer of the children back to human vessels. But there was no hurry now. The crisis was over, and the learning had begun. Human families toured the alien ship with genuine curiosity, while Zephyrian crew members asked careful questions about human child-rearing practices. As the last shuttle prepared to depart, Emma Nakamura presented Captain Thexmore with a drawing she had made during their journey. It showed humans and aliens working together among the stars, with children from different species playing and learning side by side. "Thank you for the adventure," she said in carefully practiced Zephyrian. "Maybe next time we can visit when you are not scared of us." 3 months later, the Galactic Council ratified the Children's Protection Accord. The document established universal principles for the treatment of young beings from all species. But its most important provision was simple. Threatening any species' children was equivalent to declaring war on the concept of family itself. The accord was signed by every major government in known space. But more importantly, it was understood by parents throughout the galaxy who recognized something fundamental about the universe. Children were not just the future of their species. They were the reason the future mattered at all, and in classrooms on human worlds, in the gifted program facilities, and in homes across Earth's colonies, children continued to learn and grow and dream. They built model spaceships and solved impossible problems and asked questions that made adults think in new ways, because that was what human children did. They prepared for a universe full of wonders and dangers, guided by adults who loved them enough to make them strong and curious and brave. The galaxy had learned an important lesson: never underestimate a species that treats its children as heroes in training.